Hi, my name is Richard Lee and I'm a partner at Rag & Co. I'm also head of the Workplace Pension Reform team within the Pensions team. I will be interviewing Ian Curry about the administration issues of workplace pension reform. This is one of the key issues employers are facing as part of these changes. Right Ian, let's get into the detail. What are the practical actions employers are going to have to take?
Yeah, it's a great place to start because with the administration issues, the devil really is in the detail. And employers are faced with having to control a number of processes and make sure that someone at the business is responsible for each of these processes. So to start with, someone's going to have to make sure that the employer is registered with the pensions regulator, and we're hoping that that's going to be a relatively simple online process. Someone's going to have to make sure that the right people are enrolled into the right schemes and that this is done in the correct time frame. And similarly, they're going to have someone providing the right information to the right people, and again, all of that's going to have to be in the prescribed time limits. Someone in the organisation is going to have to process opt-out forms and also process any opt-in forms where members have requested to opt in to the pension scheme. Finally, all of this will generate a lot of new paperwork, and there are administration and record-keeping requirements so that certain pieces of information need to be stored for a certain length of time.
So, how should an employer deal with member opt-outs?
So, unfortunately for employers, the member opt-out process is quite prescribed and follows some quite precise time limits and requirements. Employers need to check that the member has signed and has correctly filled in the member opt-out form, basically that it's in a valid format. They're also going to have to check that the member has provided it in the opt-out period, which is a month from the later of the enrolment date and when various information has been provided to the member. If all of this has been done, then the employer needs to effect the opt-out immediately and also has to stop any contributions being taken from the employee's payroll. They also have to make a refund of any contributions that have already been taken.
So what about refunding contributions? When would that be necessary?
So refunds of contributions are only necessary if the member has given a valid and signed opt-out form and has done that within the opt-out period, and also if they have actually in fact paid contributions. So if all of those 3 points are met, then the employer needs to ensure that a refund is paid to the employee within the next pay cycle, or if the payroll has already closed for that month, by the next payroll after that at the very latest.
So what records do employers and schemes need to keep?
So there's a wide range of record-keeping requirements under workplace pension reform. And both employers and pension schemes will have to keep a batch of records. Employers need to keep data on employees, how they've categorised their employees, on the pension schemes that they're using to discharge their employer duties. They need to keep a record of their registration information with the pensions regulator, and they also need to keep records of contributions that are made in order to discharge the minimum level of contributions. Pension schemes, on the other hand, also need to keep a batch of information to do with automatic enrolment. They need to keep some additional member information, such as if a member has been automatically enrolled. They need to keep copies of any opt-out notices or any opt-in forms, and they also need to have an employer pension scheme reference number, which is part of the registration process with the pensions regulator.
So how is the pensions regulator involved in workplace pension reform?
Well, the pensions regulator is one of the key bodies involved in workplace pension reform. The regulator was given the job of enforcing compliance with the employer's duties, and so it really does lead the wide-ranging enforcement regime, and that includes issuing notices to employers if they're failing to meet their employer duties, and then an escalating series of fines and penalties, ultimately leading to criminal sanctions for serious failure to comply. At the outset, the regulator wants to help employers meet their employer duties, but if an employer fails to meet those duties under workplace pension reform, then the regulator can issue some quite stiff penalties, including fines of up to £10,000 per day.
So how might employers get caught out by these reforms?
Well, I think there are really two main ways employers could get caught out by the reforms. The first is going back to what we said at the outset, that the devil really is in the detail of workplace pension reform, and it's those administration processes, the really techie bits, that employers are going to have to get right, and that means having the correct people knowing what they're doing and making sure that all the processes are in place. The second way that employers might stumble on workplace pension reform is if they haven't left themselves enough time. The first employers are going in October, and that does not leave a huge amount of time to implement strategies for workplace pension reform.